Chaotic, webbing is torn, some black galactic thing is born.
Hey folks, it's Dan Peterson, aka Dr. Rockter, and this is not an episode of The Hole on the Corner, but an announcement about forthcoming episodes of The Hole on the Corner. So I'm very pleased to announce that I was finally able to get some guests here to discuss R.A. Lafferty. In particular, we got Chris from Liminal Spaces, Virgil from Literally Books, and Richard from Vintage SF. And we had an epic discussion about R.A. Lafferty. Hours and hours of video that I am editing. It will be 3 separate videos, and we had a structure for that. In the first, we talk about our individual stories with science fiction in general, and then encountering Lafferty within that. And then we get into a discussion of a handful of Lafferty's planetary stories. And if you're a follower of Liminal Spaces, you'll have seen Chris talking about one of those stories briefly, Snuffles, which I have talked a lot about on this channel, but these guys bring some really fresh stuff to that, and some others. And then in the third video, we discuss Thieving Bear Planet in much more detail than we did the other stories. And let me just tell you, this is a stimulating conversation from beginning to end. And it gets hilarious. we reflected afterwards that we were like genuinely drunk on Lafferty, man. We were just like getting silly. It was getting surreal. It was, for me, over here in Scotland, those guys were in the States, it was getting into the middle of the night for me. So I was getting slap happy. Like we were discussing weird stories about little transforming ghost bears in the middle of the night at a slumber party is how it felt to me. So I'm editing those, and Past Master Chapter 6 is coming out very soon here, and then the first part of these videos will hopefully be out by the end of the weekend, but very soon regardless, and the rest of them in that coming week. So I wanted to give you a heads up because just in case you wanted to follow along, read along a little bit, I'm going to let you know the stories we discuss if you want to take a moment to read them ahead of time. So the stories are not necessarily in any particular order. 900 Grandmothers, Ride a Tin Can, Once on Aranea, Snuffles, World Abounding, and Thieving Bear Planet. So a half dozen planetary Lafferty tales, or Laffertian planetary tales. And half of those are in the Best of R.A. Lafferty, if you have that, or if you've been wanting to get a hold of it. That has Ride a Tin Can, 900 Grandmothers, and Thieving Bear Planet. And in particular, we just barely get into it, but we discuss a little bit Jeff Vandermeer's introduction to Thieving Bear Planet, which is one of my favorite introductions in this book. And one of the things I've complained about with that best of is that it doesn't have this really crucial Lafferty story, Snuffles. However, that is in the seminal collection 900 Grandmothers, if you have that or are able to get a hold of it, and it's elsewhere, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And the other 2 stories are in Strange Doings, World Abounding and Once on Aranea, or probably Aranea, that's how Chris says it, I think that's probably better. And I don't know how available this collection is. I've lost my cover here, which has a cool cover. But if you're hunting around for these and you can't get hold of those collections, what I would recommend is looking at isfdb.org. That's the Internet Science Fiction Database. And if you look under Lafferty's name and just look for each of those story titles and click on them, it will tell you everywhere they've ever been published. And a lot of these things you can find on the Internet Archive. So for example, I know for sure that Snuffles is on there in its original printing in the 1960 issue of Galaxy magazine. And I suspect many of these others are there in, Universe and Galaxy and If and where they were originally printed, and perhaps other collections that you'll see when you click on their names. And the ISFDB tells you all the places they've been published. So hopefully you can find them without too much trouble and read them ahead of us discussing them if you'd like to. And it was just a blast, and just kind of seeing some of the interconnections between these planetary tales. And this is only a small sampling of Lafferty's rather large output of planetary or interplanetary tales, which are all formally connected and often cross-reference each other, not necessarily deeply but loosely, but the names of the different planets are re-mentioned frequently in the individual stories about individual planets. And we get into that just a little bit. But mainly these guys were just bringing, what they bring on their channels to these Lafferty stories, and we were just coming up with fresh stuff and great interpretations and thoughts about it all. That was just a fascinating discussion that I really look forward to sharing with everyone. And I'll just thank them again for agreeing to do this. I wrote them and said, look, do you guys want to do a panel? We've had a little bit of interaction. I did some response videos to various ones of them. And I was like, do you guys want to, just do a little panel together on Lafferty? And I was like, this isn't going to help your channels or anything. It's just like, does that sound fun to you? And they were like, yes, that does sound fun. And so we got together, and sure enough, it was fun. And as I've said before, fun is kind of a key, almost ontological category for Lafferty. So I think we were in the right spirit there, having a blast with it. And I have to say, I felt that it really not proved my point, but bore out some of my speculations about this emerging Lafferty readership and what I call the sort of ludic mythopoesis that's happening around that, the playful myth-making in the way we discuss Lafferty's stories, and that was really evident in this discussion. So watch out for that coming out, and I hope you guys will get into the comments and discuss this with us. On that note, I do also want to mention that I have one more very specific person that I'm in the works of planning on having on as a guest. I don't know if it's going to be a one-time thing or multiple times, and I've been sitting on it because I didn't want to announce it and then it not happen, but I'm going to have some faith here and speak it into existence. Andrew Ferguson, who I've mentioned many times on this channel, is, I really believe, the premier scholar on R.A. Lafferty, not least in terms of biographical details of Lafferty's life, but also the sort of textual history of his writing, of like manuscripts and the formation of stories and novels and things, some of Lafferty's writing habits, and just very cool stuff that he knows. So he has agreed to come on. We are just fighting the good fight to get our schedules to come together. And again, we're transatlantic, separated by ocean. That makes it even more difficult. But Andrew, teaches at a university and so on, and has a full-time job with that and family and stuff. So, we're working it out. I'm reasonably confident this is going to happen. So I'm putting it out there. I'm trying to speak it into existence, but look forward to that as well. So yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Feel free to jump in here and comment as well if for some reason there's something to say about this, but mainly just to let you guys know. And we'll see you real soon with some great, exciting Lafferty content. Thanks for watching. Bye.